Hey, it worked! Sorry about that, everyone. This is what happens when you do this sort of stuff at 8:30 in the morning and you're a little bit tired and things don't go quite according to plan straight out of the gate. But we're here now. Sorry about that.
And I've never seen Chris so happy.
Very happy. When I clicked the button and none of our faces were in the right place, my first thoughts were, oh my goodness. And that's the PG version. Alrighty. Hey, welcome to the Big Four of Late War stream. Once again, we'll do a quick whip around in case you don't know who we are. We are the Big Four. We are all Battlefront employees working in the studio, and we are going through the late war journey together. The four of us are each building an army. Everyone will tell you who they are and what their armies they're building. I'm Chris, and I'm building D-Day British. Casey, since you're above me on the screen, who are you and what are you doing?
Yep. Well, I'm Casey, and I'm doing late war Soviets.
Why did you pick Soviets? One sentence.
Because they're awesome.
Seems legit. All right. Wayne doesn't look like he's concentrating as hard as Victor right now. Who are you, Wayne, and what are you?
I'm doing Germans, and I'm roughly basing it on the 2nd Panzer Division.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're going history, Casey's going gamey, and Victor... Victor, what are you doing?
I'm doing the Americans, and just because they're cool. America is my reason.
There you go. And actually, I didn't say it. I'm doing the British because I've failed to complete a British army now at least twice before now. So this is my enforced way to get it finished. And to Rebrock, I think some of them did. I'm just naturally going bald, so I don't need to worry about haircuts. So
Self-haircutting. It's good.
Yeah, I shaved mine off. That was my COVID lockdown haircut.
Yep. So,
and yes, I've grown my quarantine beard, and now my wife won't let me shave it off.
So we've got a lot to kind of chat about today. First thing though, we wanted to have a quick discussion about, because I know some of you will have tuned in for this, and hopefully will hang around for the rest of the chat. The release schedule. Look, at the moment, our team in Malaysia are back on deck. They are producing stuff as fast as they can. We've got a backlog. We've got some orders from before everything happened that they're trying to catch up on. We've also got the new releases they're working on. So it will all come back as fast as they can. They're currently investigating all sorts of freight options to get the new releases and any back orders out to our warehouses as fast as possible. It's just going to take a little bit of time. As part of that is the release schedule. We can't announce a new release schedule until they've worked out the logistics. So that's being worked on right now by people above our pay grades. And the plan is, and you heard it here first, this time, more or less next week, with no technical issues, I'm going to sit down with Peter and he's going to run you through the release schedule and how the sort of the late war journey might look for the next year or so with everything that's happened. So yeah, that's where we're at with the release schedule. So I wanted to get that out of the way. So unfortunately for the next hour or so, we can't really answer any questions on it because we kind of don't know right now. Sorry. So
Yeah. The short answer is we're working on stuff.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you are talking, when I say working on logistics, I do literally mean logistics. It's all about production planning and sea freights and air freights and material availability and the stuff that kind of puts some of us to sleep a little bit because we just want our toy soldiers and we want them now. So,
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But that does segue me into something. So we want to chat about, what we'd really like to chat about today, hopefully, is our hobby, your hobby, the shared hobby, and want to also give you guys a quick shout out. I actually want to say thank you. So for the past, I don't know, how long is it? 7 weeks, I think it's been. We've been doing a pile of stuff on social media and on the website. Wayne has been busy putting piles of awesome content up on the website, and my phone's dinging and an inconvenient time. Wayne's been putting heaps of cool stuff up on Facebook and Instagram and the website, just to try and give you guys stuff to check out and be excited and entertained by. And I'm actually really pleased. A bunch of you have messaged me over the last few weeks and said how much you've enjoyed it. Likewise, the Share Your Hobby stuff we've been doing on Facebook. Started doing that, and you guys have gone hard, and you've gone well. I just can't explain how impressed I've been with how many people I've seen. They've started off with, hey, I've got a bunch of frames to work on, and then 6 weeks later it's, here's my painted army. It's been amazing. The fact that I've been able to watch you build and paint new stuff has been one of the bright sparks for me during this last 6 or 8 weeks while I've been stuck at home with the kids. So thank you.
And everyone's been jealous because you've all been sort of doing more than we have. It's been really cool to watch. Yeah.
Alrighty. So, what should we start on? What did everyone get done over the break? Did any of us get anything done? And then we'll go and flick to some questions. Casey?
I got a company of IS-2s assembled.
Nice.
And I managed to finish this probably won't work very well because of lighting and stuff, but I managed to get one of my first T-34 platoons finished.
Very nice.
So,
Now that we're back in the studio, we're back to having all our photo gear and lights, so we'd be looking to put more Big 4 articles up in the coming weeks of all the stuff, especially what Casey's been working on and Wayne finishing their platoons and stuff.
Yeah, because I've now got enough that I can field a mid-war Soviet army. Because they cost more in mid-war.
Wayne, what have you been doing?
I got a bunch of bits and pieces done. I made a list.
Oh.
So I had some bits, parts of armies that needed to try and sort out. So I did 4 M113 CNVs for my World War III Dutch. So all I've got left to paint on that army is 4 more Leopard 1s. I also I had some old Hungarian stuff we're going to probably use to do some photography at some point, and I had the old wrong decals on them, so I went through those, painted out the old decals and put new decals on them. So a bunch of 38Ts, Nimrods and Toldies, I've all done that too. Then I started painting my Dutch Leopard 1s, so they're not finished yet. They're about halfway done. I assembled 4 mobile wagons for my Big 4 German army. I've just got to work out. I need to drill out some bits because I want to magnetize the gun. So I still haven't got around to getting out my Dremel and having a go at that yet. I painted a whole Panzer Grenadier platoon, which is I'm basing today. I'm gluing the flock to today.
This is the platoon you started in our first stream?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, that's the one. I painted a German 8cm mortar platoon for a different army, for my Gebirgsjäger army, because it was one of those armies I did years ago, and it's back in version 2 and 3. You weren't always enthusiastic about taking mortars and machine guns, so I never got around to painting any. So now I've actually painted machine guns and mortars for that army. So the army is basically complete now.
Because mortars are legit.
Yeah. And also with the painting stuff for Hungarians for the upcoming mid-war Hungarian booklet coming out, I'm painting some Panzer 3s and 4s for that, so they're about halfway done.
Wow.
And then I did some bits of various 28mm things, what I won't talk about. You can follow me on Instagram and find out about it.
Oh, shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Wayne, why are you magnetizing the mobile wagon? Is that for transport?
For the 37mm, because it's because it's a metal gun. It's a bit wobbly. So every time you kind of move your mobile wagon around, it wobbles around. So I just to stop it wobbling around more than anything. Yeah.
Cool.
Victor, do you get anything done?
No, I've had a busy lockdown with other stuff, but I did a little bit more on the Armoured Rifle Company. I think I started last stream or the stream before. Mm-hmm. So the intention was still to get them done for a tournament in the middle of the year, but the tournament won't be happening, but I'd still like to push myself to stick to that deadline, perhaps.
Yep. I'm much in the same boat as Victor. Kids at home and work. I got my Cromwells that I was working on the last stream to the point now where I've done all the Hessian strips that I wanted to do. I've put some stowage on some of them, but I basically looked at them and said, I don't really feel like painting. I know there's only about a dozen or 16 models, I guess. I don't really feel like painting them in one big batch. So my hobby job for today is to look through this fan of cards and decide what is a small unit that I could paint just to kind of get me back in the zone. Just pick something small like a motor platoon or a reconnaissance platoon or something, paint that, get back into the swing of things, and then I can tackle my Cromwells. So yeah.
You've already painted Crusader AA, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. So we've got those are painted and ready to go up. Take some photos for the website.
Cool.
So we'll just have a quick scroll through the chat. Oh, actually, this is
Yes,
great.
sir.
This is great. Oh, sorry, Casey. This is a great question, and I'm picking this one. Casey may have already picked it. Lochtanel, would you go over some tips about decals?
That's what I was going to mention, but yeah.
Funnily enough, I was actually talking to Evan, who's our sculptor based in Palmerston North, and Tim, who is our digital sculptor based up in the UK. He makes the majority of our plastic kits, and we were talking about decals last night, so good timing. Who wants to start off with a decal process? And I'm going to go not me, because I get the worst silvering out of all four of us.
Okay. Well, the first biggest tip is varnish. Put a coat of gloss varnish underneath where you're intending to decal.
All right. Let's start at the beginning of the process. Let's pretend this is one of our sheets of decals. Sorry, I don't have one here handy. This is a sheet of decals. We're all cutting the specific decals we want off it.
Yeah. I trim very closely to the decal, even as well.
Yep.
Especially if it's going in a tight space. Sometimes the varnish is bigger than you'd like. Like, say, a star, for example. I'll trim it right to the top and bottom points of the star to put on the side of a tank.
Yep.
But you don't have to. You could put a whole row of stars in the water if you like. But I tend to trim them tight.
Sometimes the overgloss is just, it makes the actually putting the decal on harder because it's taking up more space than you have.
So
trimming some of that off.
What the guys are talking about with overgloss, and let me grab this box of command cards, it's handy. Let's pretend this box of command cards is a decal, the coloured part of your decal. This is the overgloss. So the overgloss goes over the coloured part, and that's what kind of keeps the coloured part all stuck together and looking good.
Doesn't help you, Chris, but here you go. Here's some decals.
Nice blown out decals. So what Victor's saying is he'll trim away as much of this overgloss, leaving just as much of the decal as you can. So now, actually, Victor raised an interesting point. Who's a dunker? Who's a brusher? Who's a dipper? What do you guys do with your decals once they're cut out?
See, I cut them out, and I'll only do two decals at a time.
Yep.
And I basically dip them in the water, let the paper wick the water up into it, and then set it aside for 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then use it, and then put it on the tank with a brush.
Consensus, that's I think pretty much all what we do, one way or the other.
I do it the bad way.
Oh no.
I drop them in the water and I leave them in there till they fall off, and then I fish them out, and then they fold up. And, they fold up around the brush. Sometimes they break. Yeah, and then I have stuff. But that's how I do it.
Okay, so in the comments, then you need to comment either Team Victor and Wayne or Team Chris and Casey.
Yeah, team correct or team not correct. Yeah, no.
With them breaking. Yeah.
I think if decals, the brush on a bit of water or dip a little bit of water is kind of the safest and gentlest approach. Much like Victor and Wayne, I used to just chuck them in and wait for them to come off. But
I used to do that, and then I learned the right way of doing them.
So there you go. All right, so now we've got our decals separated. Before the decals are ready to put on, you should have put a gloss varnish. I would
do that well ahead of putting the decals in the water. Let that dry fully.
Yeah, day before
Yeah,
type
yeah,
material, you
day
should
before.
gloss varnish all the spots on your tank. So what I'd do is, here's my tank. So the night before, day before, I'll go through and I go, okay, I know I'm putting a couple of numbers, unit markings there, I'm putting my squadron markings on the side of the turret, and I'll just go through and gloss all those spots up and be a bit generous in terms of your coverage and space. Decals this big, there's no problem with covering that much space.
Yeah, and I'll if it's something I haven't decaled before, I'm not adding more tanks where I've done them before, I'll write down a notepad, like license plate, front left, unit marking, so I make sure I gloss all the right places.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you've done one tank or a platoon, your next platoon will be easier because you've got something to copy.
Yep. All right, so you've pre-glossed, you've trimmed your decals, you've done all that. I really should have switched my phone off before the stream because that's just getting annoying. So you've pre-glossed and done all that. You've now carefully brushed some water on it, waited till the decal just comes off and gently separated it, put it on.
Before you do that, you actually put a drop of water or wet a little bit on the top of your gloss varnish where you're putting your decal because it helps it float on.
I haven't done that.
I've never done that.
It works really well. You should put a bit of water onto your glossed area.
Yep.
It just helps it float on, and it helps you actually be able to maneuver the decal after you put it on because there's a little bit of moisture in there. And then once it's in the right place, then you can just
soaking wet, so it's fine. They've been soaking in the water for 5 minutes, so there's plenty to go around.
But there's actually no water on the decal. Actually, it just helps you float it around into the right place on your tank.
I use a brush to place mine, so the brush has usually got water in it anyway, so I can I can dip the water in the decal, brush in the decal water to moisten it up again if I need some more.
That's very much my theory too. All right, so let's just say the decal's now on by hook or by crook. You've got it on the tank, so you obviously get your thumb and you just kind of jab it on there, or maybe.
Yeah, use a brush to get it in position, and what I will do when I like where it is, I'll gently get a cotton bud or bunched up tissue,
or
press it on and dry it. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll just use the same brush. I'll dry the brush and then soak up any excess moisture once it's in the right place.
I've only recently started actually pushing dry it off and then pushing it quite hard to get any air bubbles up, especially if it's a textured surface.
Well, that's why I use a Q-tip because I'll actually roll it on to sort of roll any air bubbles out from underneath the that may, because it's all the micro air bubbles that you want to get rid of. And I usually have that dipped in decal sol to try and dissolve the overgloss.
So Casey raises a good point. Anyone got a bottle of decal sol? Not that we're doing product endorsements, nor are we sponsored by the manufacturers of it. But there you go.
There's that's a old Flames War one, but that's the same as this. That's the Vallejo one.
Yeah. So it's a decal softener. It helps. There's microsol, microset, or decal softener. All these things help the decal kind of look painted on, not kind of slapped on. And I think that's the Decal 101. Except I will say, go on the Battlefront YouTube channel, and Blake has 2 videos with Decal Basics and Decal Advanced. Worth watching. Blake's really talented hobbyist, doesn't work for the company anymore, but his video is still excellent.
Yeah, he lives on through YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah. One other thing, if you feel like you can sort of see if you're going to get some silvering, if you hold it under a lamp at a certain angle, you will see any air bubbles and stuff trapped under it, which you want to notice before you matte varnish it. You can get a very fine, thin needle, put holes in them, and keep applying more of that decal sol or softener to fan it down, but that'll give a little spot for the air to come out. I've done that before with American stars, because you've got a varnish circle and you've got gaps there, of just overgloss. If you've got bubbles in there, you can use a thin tin to prick them out.
And quite often what I'll do is I'll finish my decal, and then in about half an hour later, after it's all dry and set, I'll actually go and put a little bit more decal sol on as well, and just to re-soften it and just to try and sort of get it even closer to the tank.
All right. So scrolling through, we've got a few other people. Yeah, microset you can use. There is microset which you can use before you put your decal on, then put it on, then a bit of microsol on top. Any of you guys painting those sweet new T80s? No, not yet. None of us have our hands on them.
I've not seen a plastic frame yet.
We would be.
Yeah,
and we've all been building lists.
Yeah. 100-point lists or 150-point lists with some T80s seems to be a common noodling thing around the office. Let's see, what else have we got? Who was it that they just said they built an 85-point Iranian army? Grenadier Games Serb, nice work. 85 points of Iranians, that's a solid effort.
That's a lot of T-72s and 54s, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, Iranians is
Chieftains and M60s.
These the M60s,
Yeah.
All right. So, not quite as good as T-62s and T-72s then.
I don't know.
Wow.
Iranian chieftains, I've got some chieftains that I built for my Berlin Brigade force, and I still haven't started actually applying paint. And the Iranian list is quite tempting. I played against one at a tournament last year. His list
Your Czech army will be ashamed of you.
Oh, I know. I haven't even finished my checks yet. I've still got another 40 tanks to paint for that. But no, my opponent had a lot of infantry. I'd go more tank heavy, but yeah, it's very tempting. Very tempting.
So what number is that on your list of armies you'd like, Chris?
What is it they say? My eyes are bigger than my stomach. When you come to eating too much food, it's my eyes are bigger than my paintbrush, I guess, is probably the equivalent. You know, as I've gotten older, I've become better at not having as big a stash of unstarted stuff in the garage.
Have you?
No, I have. I know it's hard to believe, but I have. I do embarrassingly have a World War III West German army that really could just do with about 2 days of work to have it finished off. And my World War III French, probably the same deal. Another 2 days and I could have 2 full AMX 10 essentially full AMX 10 formations, AMX 10 RC formations, and with supporting infantry. See, Rebrock, short question here. If a decal sheet for Panzer IV SS has about 6 iron crosses on them, how many decal sheets will I need to decal a full Panzer IV SS formation? I think I need a whiteboard to answer that question.
Well, it depends if you put 2 or 3 crosses on each tank. There's some
usually 2, right?
Normally 2.
One each side.
But sometimes they had them either on the back of the turret or on the back of the hull. Yeah.
You could skip the back one because that was only sometimes on. So I put 1 on each side of your tank. So you need, if you've got 12 tanks, you'll need 24 crosses.
I think there was a roundabout algebraic way of asking how many tanks can I fit in my army?
I will say,
the SS organization.
Yeah, I'm right. So yeah, you go.
The SS organization is the same as normal German organization. So if you've got D-Day German, you can see how many tanks you'll need there. You just won't know the points.
I will say, though, Victor has made an updated SS decal sheet. So that's going to come out with the SS book. So that's got new stuff on it. So there you go. It'll be a useful decal sheet.
You remember what I do at work more than I do. I forgot about that.
No, I'm just heavily invested because I know it has some tank numbers that I want.
Yes, yeah, and I got all the numbers on there to do all the Tiger companies as well.
Yep.
Like Whitman's Tigers and all the colour, the blue and the red and the green numbers for the 3 different companies.
Yep. See, here we go. Grenadier Games Serbs Art. It's got 8 chieftains, 2 mech platoons, 1 with MO13s, 1 with BMPs, 8 T-62s, 3 T-55s, 4 Cobras, some aircraft, and some Shilkers. Oh, that is cool.
And how many points was that?
85 points of Iranians. That's I really want to do an Iranian force, but I'm really terrible at painting desert colours. I
had a plan to do that as well.
Right. That's right.
Even any models.
Okay, he's redeemed himself. He's got more Soviet gear than then
You must be a Republican Guard then. Not Republican Guard, Revolutionary Guard.
Revolutionary Guard. There we go. So, where do you guys see your hobby activity heading over the next little while? I say that because now we're back in the office now. We're kind of in New Zealand. We're kind of getting back into the swing of normality.
I got a couple odd platoons I want to finish off so we can put articles of those up. But a lot of my time will go into the Armoured Rifle Company. And then I'm hoping I'll be starting to look at what's coming in the next book in terms of building M4A3 Shermans and stuff like that.
Because you've pretty extensively painted the contents of your book. I mean, I know there are some units that you haven't done out of World War III Americans, but there's not many units, I wouldn't have thought.
World War II.
Sorry, World War II.
I would, the Armoured Rifle Company is one I want to get done, but after that, I might paint a couple more tank destroyers so I can run a formation of them, but not much else, Okay.
So, Wayne, I mean, you've got the SS book coming out soon. I know you're not building an SS force. Do you have German stuff from your book that you're still keen to do other than the mobile wagons, or are you going to...
Well, there were the two Tigers that came with the starter box I started with. The only logical unit they could be would be one of the SS guys, the Whitman's guys in so possibly I could bulk those out and do a little SS Tiger company.
Yep.
And then they'd still work as work with the Second Panzer Division.
Yep. Casey.
Well, I'm still finishing my first 100 points.
Yeah, you're slack. So you've got your IS-2s. Once the T-34s are done, the plan was to do IS-2s because we were going to go to Panzer Shrek, which is one of our two events that sort of we tend to try and travel to as a team every year here in New Zealand anyway. But that has been cancelled, so you're still going to paint as though we were going.
Yeah, I've got 13 IS-2s to paint.
Yep.
Then I want to make a couple of custom objectives for the army.
Nice. Yeah.
I always do. I always try and do a couple of custom objectives because it finishes it off really.
Yep.
And then I've got all the new units from World War II Soviet book to start thinking about.
Yeah, from the Bagration
book. Yeah, Bagration book. I've got, want to do some SU-76s and some BA-64s, or the BA-10s. I can't remember which ones are. The four-wheelers.
BA-64s.
yeah.
Yes.
So I've got some BA-64s to do.
Yep.
Not going to paint any more infantry. Already got enough of that.
Yep.
But yeah, and that'll probably take me till the end of the year.
Weirdly, BA-64s are one of those models where, despite the fact I only field them in units of 3 or 4, I think I've painted over 12 of them. Because every time I do a Soviet army, I just paint some BA-64s to go with it because I think they're so cool. So as you know, I put up an article, you may or may not know, on the Big Four website. I put up an article series a few weeks before the lockdown happened, where my plan was to do my Churchills, Cromwells, and then reconnaissance forces for my British. So obviously I've done the Churchills. Once we get over we've just got back to work hump, Casey or Victor will take some nice photos of those so we can put them up on the website. And I've kind of stalled there. I'm thinking today I might grab out the Daimlers and Dingoes because they're a small unit and I could just knock those out, and like I say before, and get back into the swing of things. A bit like Wayne though, I'm kind of also eyeing up the Waffen SS book. I really want to... What's that, Wayne?
Start another army, you mean?
No. What I really want to do is I want to do... I sort of started it with the D-Day German launch. I want to do the last days of Michael Whitman. So I want to do a 100-point force, which is basically just Whitman's company. it's just very themey. I want to actually spend a bit of time on it, like more time than I would usually on 7 models. I started assembling them, started carefully taking off some of the zimmerit with a sharp knife. I have been playing around with the idea of shell penetrations or shell bounces, so using a pin vise and just carefully putting like a divot in the tank, so not actually going all the way through, just going part way through the plastic. Then putting a tiny bit of putty in the hole, and then using the end of a brush or something like that to push it in. What that does is it creates the divot where the shell has gone in, but then it also creates the metal that gets pushed out from the armor and creates a ring around it. So I don't know how much of that's actually going to show up when I paint them, but I'll know they're there. So yeah, I think I've done 3 or 4 tanks. I was trying to work on them while helping my son with his homework. That just didn't work, so they went back in the box. But I'm thinking they'll come out for when we get to. I'd like to have them seriously in progress when we hit the D-Day SS book release.
For your shell penetration stuff, that sounds cool. You should just take a screenshot of my tank in World of Tanks about 1 minute into a battle. It has lots of holes in it.
Yeah, that's
a good reference.
Right. Casey saw something that he likes.
Let's say, Dark Horse, yes, you need another 21 T-34s.
Well, need another or need his first 21 T-34? Definitely needs
you
21.
need 21 T-34s. You definitely need 21.
Yep.
Yeah, everyone should.
I don't know if we're not going to really have an answer for this one, but this is a question for Wayne from Evil Spock. And it just scrolled off my screen. Sorry, I just have to scroll up. What would be the best book for fighting in Hungary 1944? Looking for one with specific unit information for scenario building. Oh, here we go. We're talking a history book, maybe, not a reference book, perhaps. Or it could be, one of our older Flames of War books for version 3.
There's a bit of background in the old Grey Wolf book, covering that stuff. But there's a bunch of books about that. There's a book called Days of Battle that covers a lot of the fighting. That's kind of late 44, early 45. There's a book about Siege of Budapest. There's a couple of books about the whole Hungarian campaign. There's plenty of stuff around. Yeah, Just have a look on, type in "Battle for Hungary" on your favorite book website and see what comes up. Amazon or Book Depository or whatever. Yeah.
And I think there's quite a few articles on the Flames of War website as well.
There's a few. All the articles we did when we did the Hungarians and the initial book, Stalin's Europe, when we first approached this area. There's a series of articles up there dealing with all sorts of things. Yeah.
From memory, there's quite a good series on the assault gun units too, which I think we were all a little bit biased in favour of those. So
there's some scenarios in there as well. For the Zerinis and stuff.
Yeah, Zerinis and the Stugs, Hetzers. Yeah.
Let's see, a poll for Casey, Chris, Victor and Wayne. I'm in the process of painting a conversion of an MT-55A AVLB. Should I paint it as Finns or Soviets?
Soviet.
Finns.
I don't know. That's a tough call.
I don't know. I mean, if we'll get to do Finns at any point soon or not.
Yeah.
The idea's been bandied around, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the sort of, I wouldn't call them army lists, I'd call them lists of equipment. Let's go with that. And it's like, the Finns do look like a fun force to build in World War III. Yeah, I think if you want to use it now, I'd go Soviets. But if you want to keep the hope alive, I'd paint it as Finns. That's my answer.
Or you could paint it with Finns and temporarily use Soviets until a Finnish
there you go.
Force is available. Yeah.
Yep. Dark Horse, I have 70 plus Soviet tanks in World War III, none in World War II. Well, all right.
Well,
then,
you need to change that.
Yeah. So you want to start with, I think, wait for our new army deal. I can't tell you when it's coming out because I don't know. No. I'll give you a quick story. I'd never had a whole lot of interest in playing the Soviets when Flames of War first came out. And I was just telling the guys actually a couple of weeks ago. I went to a tournament and played against a New Zealander who actually at the time worked for Battlefront, and he had 3 full companies of Soviet infantry. And I thought to myself, I really want a Soviet army. And not long after that, I started my first army, and ever since then, I've painted in Flames of War at least, I don't know, like 3 or 4 different kind of 1,500 point, 2,000 point back in the old days, or like 100, 150 point armies now, from my sort of late, early mid-war T-26 force, which are in a sort of a 3-colour camo. I've got my Su-76 battalion. I've got my T-34 battalion. I actually bought off a couple of friends of mine a massive Soviet infantry force. So I think they're very different to all the other armies, and I think that makes them quite unique and quite fun to play. So if you don't have them for World War II, just go pick up a quick few vehicles and start painting.
Yeah, and actually, luckily, if you pick up T-34s, SUs, that sort of thing, find some old boxes of IS-2s, everything you're going to paint is going to be good or useful.
Yeah, you can't go wrong mid-war or late war with T-34s, since the model comes with both turrets. Su-100s, Su-76s, they're great. Su-76s in mid-war, obviously, not late war.
Yeah, Katyushas.
Yep. Yeah, it is a great army for getting lots of value over periods.
Yeah, I've got some here that built and ready to paint.
Yep. Oh, geez.
I was actually like I was going to do an article at some point saying, here's what I've currently got painted. I can't field it for late war yet, but it makes it really good at mid-war force.
Yep. Rebrock, I don't think we're not going to have an answer for you off on the fly here. Sorry. Short question: why is the Daimler armored car troop with extra dingo 3 points, and the Greyhound cavalry recon patrol 5 points? Only because of the mortar? Off the top of our heads, no idea. I'm going to say thank goodness it's 3 points, because I'm building the British, and where is he on the screen? That guy is building Americans, and I need all the help that I can get against him based on our last game.
Did I win that last game?
I feel like you did. I feel like your paras took the objective and I couldn't take them off them.
Oh yeah, that was cheesy. But yeah, I did. Yeah. Cool.
Let's see. Yugoslavia.
The paras took the objective because of the spearhead from the recon patrol.
So there you go. There you go. American spearhead. It's broken or OP. You heard it here first. Yugoslav forces for Team Yankee. World War III Team Yankee. I'd love it, but that's only because I want a Praga M53. So that's on my wish list. I want a Praga M53 because the Czechoslovakians used it for their AA. So when can we expect the Panzer 470 and plastic? It's coming. Don't know. Release schedules. Definitely going to happen.
Yep.
Alrighty, cool. I think we've exhausted most of the questions at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So
have you found anything in the British book you're doing?
I'm
going to do next?
Yeah, I'm definitely the Daimlers and the Dingoes. The Recon has to be my first choice. 2 reasons. One, because they look cool. I know this isn't a great way of showing them. Little dinky things.
Yeah, the plastic kits do look really, really nice.
Yeah, I've actually got a couple of test shots. So when we make a plastic, it goes off to the CAD files go off to the manufacturers, the tool makers in Malaysia. They cut the plastic out and they'll send us some of the very first shots. That's where so you get to assemble them, make sure everything fits together, make sure all the details come out okay. So I've assembled a few test shots and I just fell in love with them. I mean, They're just so dinky,
So-
and the Daimler is so few pieces to put together. So the Dingo is so few pieces, side, top. And actually,
Hey, I said, hey, you told us you hadn't got any. Did they just make it into your drawer?
well, you got to keep some stash. And I saw, I can't remember, I think it might have been Mark from Breakthrough Assault put up some pictures on Facebook of his unit. I thought it looked cool, so they will probably be the first thing I tackle.
And are you painting enough to do the command card, the formation?
I will do the whole command card. So I'll do 2 platoons plus an HQ. That's enough for the compulsory part. And that means my motor platoon that I've just been so slack about starting becomes more important, because I'll need that. I need a motor platoon and a 6-pounder platoon for the command card. So,
Which command card is that?
there's a command card in the D-Day British book that lets you do I'm fielding it as Inns of Court reconnaissance unit. Technically, that organisation, if you're a real rivet counter, the organisation on that command card isn't for Inns of Court. I think it's for what is it, Wayne? It's for an infantry unit.
I honestly don't know. I had nothing to do with that.
Oh, there we go. I thought you might have known off the top of your head. But for my purposes, for right here and right now, it's good enough. So I can wait for a more period correct unit specific command card with the next British book, but this gives me a reason to paint it now and be happy and use my toys. So yeah, that's probably where I'm going to head.
I can't remember if it's meant to be a recce squadron or an armoured car squadron. I don't know. I think it's meant to be a recce squadron, therefore, but it's like an unusual that a unit has Daimlers in a recce squadron. They're normally Humbers, so it's one particular unit that had Daimlers.
Specific time and place.
That's so good. It's another way to use your toys.
Yeah.
That's my view. And it, like I say, it fits my narrative of what I want to do. That's the thing, it fits what I want to field and build.
Lockton. Somebody said, do you guys have a preference for resin or plastic models? I know Victor's got some strong opinions on this one.
Oh, not strong. I like plastic. Yeah, the detail is just great, and I actually prefer assembling plastic. I know some people find it more time consuming, but for me, it's faster. By the time you clean your metal, you wash your resin, and you got to use super glue, and I always glue my fingers together. So yeah, I prefer plastic.
Yeah, so I'm definitely in the plastic. I mean, metal and resin has its place. I mean, I won't go out of my way to avoid it, but plastic, you can just do some cool stuff. I mean, I've got some of my IS2s here, which I've, hacked out the mud guards, make it more like a Berlin style, if you can see that. But it just gives you a bit more opportunity to do modelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm conflicted. I love the speed of assembly of a metal and resin model. I don't wash my resin.
See, I don't understand that, because I always spend huge amounts of time cleaning up the metal. So I don't gain any time between the two. They're about the same for me.
Yeah. There is a definite advantage if you're buying like a plastic model will always look the same in terms of how it comes out of the tool. It's coming out of a steel tool. It'll all be formed nicely. You'll never get sort of any issues like that. Yep. You'll get all the bits. You don't get, because let's be honest, we've all bought a model, whether it's ours or someone else's, and you can get a QA issue, something missing, and it's easy enough. You contact our customer service guys, so they'll get you squared away, but it's just an inconvenience. So yeah, I do like plastic when I'm lugging an army case. I've got
especially the armies you like to field.
Well, the armies, I have been fielding my
Oh, imagine if your checks were all metal and resin.
Oh, I don't have to imagine. I carried a box around that has half. I've only half finished my Syrians for Fate of a Nation, and that box is heavy. it's not fun to carry. Whereas, I pick up my T-72s and my T-55s for my checks, like, and then I pick up the Danas and the infantry and all the other stuff. It's like, whoa. So
all your OT-64s.
All the OT-64s. I took the army down to Wellington, which is like a 1-hour flight from Auckland. But of course, I'm flying down, and I've got my one carry-on bag because I'm being cheap. I didn't pay for carry-on and belly luggage, so it's got my army and 3 days worth of clothes and deodorant and toothbrush and that sort of stuff. So carrying all that along and thinking, make it look light. Don't weigh the bag, because the Air New Zealand staff are becoming very keen on weighing carry-on bags these days. So I avoid. Plastic's so much better for carrying to tournaments, and actually if your army case falls over too. Giving me PTSD flashbacks of carrying my reluctant trained King Tiger company. I've got a, what was it, Panzer Ausbildung Abteilung 500. Please, hopefully no one speaks German because I just butchered your language. Sorry. That's all old metal and resin Tigers and King Tigers and Panzer IIIs. It's one of those armies that I really love, but I just don't want to paint again. But would like to paint in plastic, if you kind of know what I mean.
Plastic King Tigers would be great when we do them, and we are doing them in the future.
Yeah, they're definitely on the list. Any recommendations for cases? Look, there are so many case companies out there. We're down in New Zealand. We're a bit limited because no local manufacturers, but you've got companies in the US and the UK that all make good cases, good foams. The one thing I would be tempted to do before buying a case, and Victor and I were actually talking about this night before. I've got a few cases, but I don't store my armies in them. I store them in something called a file master box. A file master box is just it's a foolscap filing box, apparently. Foolscap being a paper size. Wayne probably has one just out of camera. They're cheap cardboard boxes. They cost $2. We buy them from our local mass stationery company. There you go. And you put a non-slip sheet in there. You can put a whole lot, I can't put a whole one in my armies, but you can put quite a lot of stuff in there. And I have a bookshelf sort of out of shot somewhere over there, which has got a pile of these boxes. So I don't use army cases to store, I use them to transport. That's a long way of saying you should decide early on whether or not you're storing your armies in your cases or you're storing them in another solution. I find
I just have 2 carry bags I use for tournament or moving around.
Yep.
But all my armies are stored in boxes.
I store them in the boxes because it's space efficient. I think, Victor, you're going the other route though, right?
I have 2 of the battle foam cases. The one we used to make and the new Team Yankee style one that they've done. And then I also have a cardboard box which I keep. I'll see if I can bring it into screen. This is heavy because this has old armies in it. They do a cardboard box which is a lot cheaper but fits the same size foams. So I guess I have 3 bags worth of foam but only 2 bags.
Yeah.
So I'll swap the trays in and out of the box depending what I'm taking to a tournament or a game night.
Yep.
But I like the foam. I'm a big fan. I used to use the file master things, but the amount I reshuffle things in my hobby space, there was always the risk of something tipping, and foam's nice.
Yep.
Protected.
Yeah, I'd go do a similar thing as Victor, except I've just got way too many armies now, and way too many models to store in foam. Got 15 years of...
Humble brag there, Victor. That's okay, Casey.
I got 15 years of Flames War armies.
I'm going to say those are rookie numbers, mate. I'm coming up 20 years. Not 20 years as an employee, but 20 years of Flames of War armies.
That's closer to my age than it is to how long I've been doing Flame.
All right.
Yeah, it just means you're old. You're just old, Chris.
Yeah, there is that.
I don't have those armies from 20 years ago though. Because the first army I painted was a early war French army, which I got rid of about 10 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, I've sold quite a few, pared it down, because when I first started painting armies, I'd only really just started painting as well, and it showed. And so some of the old armies are wanted to sell and redo them again. So the Hungarian assault guns being a good example. I really liked the army, and I was happy with them at the time, but then I looked at them no, I'd like to do that again, especially when there was talk of doing it all in plastic. And yeah,
my first army I don't have anymore, but that was a awful painted in 3 weeks Soviet infantry battalion.
I'm impressed you painted it in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
With the foam cases, as a company, we're always looking at options as well. There's so I think stay tuned on that. We might, come up with something.
There might be one that we bring out. We don't know. You touched on an interesting point. So 3 of you, actually none of us had the first Flames of War armies we ever painted. Painting progression. Do you want to talk about that? I've been painting figures now for 30 years, and sadly, I am the worst painter out of the 4 of us. And other than Wayne, I've probably been painting the longest. I know, probably similar amount of time to Wayne.
Well, I started when I was about 14.
Yeah.
So, what am I going to be 50 this year? So, yeah.
So
well, that's immortalized on YouTube, Wayne. Oh, rookie move.
35 years I've been painting figures. I think I would have got better by now.
As a comparison, I'm 32, so Wayne's been painting longer than I've been alive.
There you go. So, I guess where I was going with that is, your painting will develop and change, and actually now, these days, thanks to YouTube, thanks to the painting guides, you look at some of the older painting guides on the Flames of War website compared to what you can find these days. You'll find changes in techniques, changes in styles. It's amazing how much you can grow and develop and change over just a short amount of time.
For me, it was hanging out and talking to other hobbyists that grew my painting a lot, especially when I first started at Battlefront. I dabbled in painting when I was sort of 12, 13, then didn't really through high school, and then got back into it when I worked at Battlefront about 21. And I just pestered the 2 painters at the time, James and Jeremy, for tips. I did a mid-war tiger company because I liked the idea of, everybody likes tigers when they start, and I liked the German grey. But then I hated that army once it was finished, and from then I asked, what do I do? How do I get, to the standard you guys are doing? And YouTube was a thing back then, but wasn't as popular as it is now. So yeah, YouTube would be a big help now for people starting, but definitely just chatting to other hobbyists, I feel, is the best way to get better, and be open, and don't be supportive with tips and critiques of people's paint jobs.
I do remember a few times. I do remember a few times coming talking to the studio painters and showing them what you've done, and they said, "Why'd you do it that way? Try it this way instead." And it works.
Yeah, and a lot of the times their way was easier and better. Sometimes there are shortcuts that get better results as well. You find out you're doing something the hard way and it's not looking as good. It's a double win.
Yeah, I think I've said on one of our previous streams, before I even started this project, I said to these guys, I really like how James painted this tank, and we had a I can't remember if it was a Firefly or a Cromwell that he painted. I don't have James's skill, and I don't necessarily want to spend the time that he spent doing it. What's some tricks that I can do to pull that time back? And at the same time, there are some techniques that I use, pin washing and stuff, that I'm very happy with, that I like how they the result they give, and I don't mind spending that time. So I think we ended up with a old Jag Panther hull top from a Panther sprue. Primed that and started putting different colours on it, different greens on it, and then different washes and dry brushes. And I'd spray some stuff on it at night. I'd come into work the next day, and I'd show it to these guys. And we're like, oh, we like this one. I don't like this one. What do you think of this? Oh, well, you could do a dry brush of this. So then I'd have my little list of jobs to do. I'd go home and I'd dry brush some colours on or whatever. And it was just through that kind of consultative process, I guess, that we came up with the scheme that I'm using now, which I'm super happy with. I certainly think that that's the Flames of War and Team Yankee painting groups. Good places to go. You sort of put yourself out there, ask for the tips, and if you're in those groups, and if you're not, why not? But if you are in those groups, make sure to give a positive critique. No one likes a negative critique. And the internet sometimes strips us of our ability to kind of communicate the fact we are being positive.
It makes us all into psychopaths.
Yeah, it does make us all into that. So, and if you are putting stuff up there and asking for comments and critiques, bear in mind people are just trying to give you, hopefully, supportive advice, and try not to take it to heart.
Yeah, being open to trying new stuff as well, or accepting a tip, a critique. But you raise a good point, Chris, with your Jag Panther hull. Is doing test models was a big thing that changed my painting as well. Now for almost every project, I will at least paint part of one model as a test to test if I'm doing a new color scheme. Because I got burned a few times. I'd get halfway through a full army and realize this color isn't quite right with quite what I wanted.
Yep.
And sometimes you have to do 3 tests before you find the color you like or something. But I think it's worth it. And it doesn't have to be. So if you're doing a Tiger army, but you've got a spare Sherman, that's fine. Just test it on the Sherman.
Yeah, I mean, I did. Like I said, I mean, I've tried doing winter tanks a few times now. So when I started this army, I had an idea of how I wanted to change it, but I went and did a lot of research on YouTube and looked in modelling books and stuff. I took a lot of inspiration from some like 1/35th scale modelers as well. But and then I just did a test unit, fully expecting that, I did something I wasn't particularly worried about. That wasn't in my force, which is why I did the KVs to start. I don't mind if I mess this up, but they turned out well, and I learned and progressed from that. You just have to be not afraid to throw your work away if it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's where I think, as Victor was saying, those test models. I think if you've bought the late war Panther Jag Panther box, you'll have hull tops. If you've bought, every Soviet player should have a bunch of BMP tops. Turret tops.
Turret tops.
Yeah, Chieftain turret tops. Those old
IS-2 turrets.
Yeah, those old pieces are great if you want to keep them around, because as Victor said, it doesn't matter what army you're painting. You're really just putting some paint on something to see how it works with surfaces, curves, corners, angles, all that sort of stuff. And it's too hard to see on a palette. You don't get that kind of real look. On an actual model, it's much better.
Yeah, what we're advocating is don't throw anything away.
Keep a bits box. Yeah. I've tried, because I find your dry brush color is really important. Like, obviously base color is important. You usually get that approximate to what you're going for in the historical example, and then you want a nice dry brush color for the highlight. But say take Dunkelgelb, if you pick a yellowy beige that's more on the green side, but your base color is more yellow, it's going to look odd. So I think, especially for test models, trying different dry brush colors is generally what I'm trying to figure out the most. And the test models, don't think of them as like, it's an extra step before I start an army, because they don't take long, because you don't have to paint. Once you've figured out your base color, you're not painting all the tracks and everything. You're just, I'll usually allocate an evening before I start an army, so I'm going to work out the colors tonight. And I find that's way more time saving than getting halfway through the army, being unhappy, and then never finishing it.
Yeah.
What I did with my Sabres, actually got a whole bunch of spare IS2 hulls, the hull tops, the early hulls that I wasn't going to paint, and I actually did a whole bunch of step-by-steps to remind me of what the model should look like at each step. So that, here's the base, here's the first deck tan airbrush, here the next step, here's it with a wash, then with the next 2 sets. So I've got 5 hull tops. Whereas when I'm painting the models, I can go, I've done the step, they all look like this hull top. Put it aside, do it again until they match the next hull top.
Yeah, actually, I did notice on my M10s, 3 of the M10s have got a consistent level of dry brush, and one of them I must have just... and must have dry brushed it for about twice as long as any of the others, because it doesn't quite look like the rest. But I'm taking that as a reason as to why I should paint a second unit.
At Blacker Bob, yeah, I've painted a lot of not Soviet. I painted a lot of Soviets, but I've got a massive SS army. I've got a mid-war tank. German tank army. I've got early war Poles. So
I forgot about your early war Poles.
I spread the love around.
I'm the only one who's used them in a tournament.
What?
I borrowed Casey's early war Poles.
Have you got an early war army, Victor?
No. I have some mid-war grey Panzer 3s that... no, they're probably the late versions, so no, I don't.
I was just thinking it'd be...
My deck army would do early war as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Yep.
I was just thinking it'd be fun to try and do an early war game at some point. I know that's quite a segue from where we're at with the big 4 of late war, but my French over there are one of the armies that they probably don't look that great by comparison now, but I really loved them at the time, and I'd really like to get them out and play with them again.
Yeah, I did my deck that floats between early and mid-war, because 2 Panzerschrecks in a row were deck, and I think one was... I took my deck. One was early war, one was mid. The tournaments.
I took the Italians, the badly painted Italians. I did the airbrushing on the tank. I did a bad job of the airbrushing on the tank.
I really enjoyed that early war doubles tournament because I was partnered up with Chris. Chris wanted to take Soviets, and I was like, yeah, sweet. He took infantry, and I just had 7 T-35s.
That was such...
and Chris did all the heavy lifting.
You would have thought, actually, that tournament there, what I have, 3 full-strength infantry companies, effectively.
3 full-strength infantry companies, some guns, some mortars, some artillery.
And I finished that tournament, and I said, why did I take such a big flipping army? It's a lot of physical and mental effort to play that army, pack, unpack, deploy, shift around a table. And
there were some wobbly interpretations of the rules in that tournament as well.
Well... Yeah,
People were kind of playing V3 style assaults under V4. Right. It was kind of...
Yeah, so I said after that tournament, I don't want to play a big army again anytime soon. And I seem to have just gotten into a habit of big-ish armies, and then the tournament last year in Wellington with my Czechoslovakians, I swear to goodness, I'm not... That's it. I love my Czechoslovakian army, but that's going... I've got to pack it away, put it on the proverbial shelf over there, because it was too much. Every game went either almost 2.5 hours or went to time, so it means that I didn't necessarily get a lot of results because it's just so much stuff to move and do and resolve, and it's such a...
Me and Victor didn't have that problem.
No,
we were.
Our
games always so quick.
Maybe that's a conversation to explore more in depth next time as well. Is that we've been talking a lot about how do your hobby, how's your painting styles changed, your process and stuff, and evolved. But also be interesting to discuss how your gaming. You're actually playing your games, how what you like taking armies, how that's evolved over time. Because when I started, I was all about taking as much cheap crap that I could put on the table as possible, and just human ways. And I've evolved to, I don't want to paint that much. I'm gonna go to fielding smaller elite forces because of the gaming side of things. So it's an interesting discussion about how has your gaming changed your hobby.
Right, so you heard it here. Casey is going to remember both of those topics as discussion items for our next chat, which I'll segue into the next chat in a second. But while I remember, actually, while we're talking about painting processes, on my phone, thanks to iCloud, I have the Notes app or whatever it's called. I always stick in there notes about my painting. I didn't used to. I used to be terrible at it. Now I'm at least okay at remembering to do it, but prime black, airbrush X, dry brush Y, pin wash, whatever, do this, do that. And then the thing that I forget all the time is the last step, which is the most important thing, is what flock you used, what tufts you used, whatever you used. Put that in there.
And what colour you painted the edges of your bases.
Yes.
I've had, there's so many shades of brown. It annoys me if I paint a second platoon. I'm like, oh, thank God, they don't match again. So I write everything down as well.
Yep.
It's when your third platoon doesn't match either of the first two platoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I now trust. I like I say, I use my phone only because I can access it from a cloud. And of all the things that are going to get stolen off the cloud, it's going to be photos of some celebrity before someone cares about the fact that I use English uniform with a dry brush of khaki grey. So no one cares about that. But it means
English uniform's a great colour to use.
Yeah, I knew Casey would like that. So if I don't have my phone on me, I might have a tablet, or I might be at a friend's place. I can always go and log in and just go check it out. So that's why I use that rather than a book. So then that, Casey's comment, which he is going to write down, aren't you, Casey? You're going to write down those two topics so we don't forget them. Go on.
Oh, I've already forgotten them.
Yeah, I thought you had. That's gonna segue into us into the, because we'll start kind of finishing up, because we're doing the streams from home today, and the reason for that is, as you might have known from the technical issues, the technical side of it's all being run off my computer here at home, and haven't figured out how to make it work at work yet. I have a cunning plan that involves about 5 of these little webcams and maybe some USB microphones and a spare meeting room and an old computer in the office, where we could actually sit literally around a round table together and do this. But for this week,
2 meters apart.
1 meter in New Zealand, because we're all in our work bubble now. In our work bubble, we can be 1 meter apart, I think, from memory. But yes, maintaining social distancing. So yeah, that's my plan. I am aiming for us to be able to do that in 2 weeks' time, because as I said at the outset, I'm going to do one of these chats with Peter next week. We will either do that from work or our homes. That's to be confirmed, but around about the same time. But yeah, we're very keen to keep doing these, and especially now that we have discussion topics.
Yeah, and what Chris is saying, we're just going to try keep getting better at it, because we've been learning on the fly, and just keep upgrading it, and it will be kind of cool to all be in the same room doing it.
Hey, because someone requested it, here we go.
Oh.
Yeah. We should need to set up a tip system that all the Twitch streamers do. Yeah. They charge $2 for that.
Cha-ching!
Oh, jeez. Because I know that I can't trust Casey to do it, I literally just wrote down the note. How has your painting evolved, and how has your army choice evolved? That'll give me a reminder for when we plan out the next time we do this.
Be cool, maybe for next time we'll take some photos of, maybe not our first armies if we don't have them anymore, but some old stuff, or they might be on the website. Find some old armies we've done, and then some more recent stuff we've done to show a progression.
There's probably photos of my first army that I'm just way too embarrassed about to
Yeah, I was just
On the
thinking,
website.
I was just tempted just right then to jump on the website and go and have a look, because I've got an old Grenadier army, which actually I wish I'd never sold. It looks
That was
bit,
a nice army. That's the first time I played against you.
Yeah, it probably doesn't. It probably hasn't necessarily aged well, and paint color choices, especially for Dunkelgelb, have changed a lot. I don't know what paints I was using back then.
And your bright red bricks.
GW, I think you're using.
It was probably GW paints, yeah.
Like several generations of GW ago.
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to go and have a look at those. I'd be tempted to put them up now for you on the stream, but given the issues on the front end of this, I don't risk doing anything like that.
Yeah, but
I
that's
think
interesting.
we'll compile them all, and we'll do a retrospective of our painting journey through the 10 years or 35 years in Wayne's case.
Yeah.
I can find you some really old, ancient figures I painted many, many years ago. They're terrible.
Yeah, but
with Humbrol enamels or something.
I did paint some with Humbrol enamels.
Yep.
Wow.
Geez. All right. So, where were we? Yeah. So next week, swing by. We'll let everyone know the confirmed times on Facebook in the next coming days. But I'm going to sit down with Peter. He's going to roll through where we're at as a company. Basically, if you didn't see it, it must have been 7 weeks ago or so. I sat down with him and he kind of gave a pretty frank statement of where the company was sitting in terms of how COVID-19 was affecting us as a business, as an organisation, where we saw things going. It'll be good to sit down with him and do the same process again. Now that, touch wood, everything seems to be going a bit better. Our factory in Malaysia is up and running. It's producing effectively at full strength. They are still maintaining social distancing there, just like we are. So that does mean things aren't necessarily as efficient, and they've had to look for some ways to be smart with how they lay things out, but better producing at sort of 80% or 90% than at 0%. Here in New Zealand, we're back on deck in the studio, despite what our surroundings look like. We'll all be finishing this up and heading into the office shortly. We're back in there, and from what I understand, a lot of stores, I think I saw something that's, I believe, 80+% of the stores that we deal with in the US are back and open, whether or not it's for curbside pickups or limited numbers of people in the store. I assume that the UK and Europe stores will be doing the same thing. I know over the past 6 or 8 weeks, the courier companies here in Auckland, the city we live in, are slammed. I ordered something that said it's going to be 10 days before it can make it, 3 kilometres. If I'd realised that, I would have gone and picked it up. Take this chance now that you don't have to use the internet to buy things. Go to your local gaming store, give your gaming store a call, tell them that A, you're alive, B, check that they're there, and say, hey, I'm coming in to see you. I don't care whether or not you need to go and pick up super glue, tweezers, PVA, wood glue. Go and buy something from them. This has been a miserable time, I think, for us as gamers, having to sit around and not game with our mates. For them, it's a worse time because they actually make a living from us gaming with our mates. If you can, go and buy something from them. And like I said, it doesn't matter, even if it's just some super glue, the time is now that we need to put some money in their tills so that they can, put food on their tables and also be there in a year's time. Because that's the most important thing, is we need our gaming stores to be there in a year's time. That's how we get our hobby fix, I guess. So yeah, do that. So, very, very slight segue that's only appropriate to us. When are we doing our road trip, boys, to one of our local stores in Hamilton?
Do that
soon.
Soon, there we go. Battlefront soon. There's a store that's on our couple of stores actually on our drive to Panzerschreck. So the drive to Panzerschreck takes us about I think it's 7. It would be 7 hours if you actually drove it.
It takes about 9.
Seriously, we do it in about 9. Yeah, by the time you stop for lunch, stop at a store, stop at another store, stop at this store. So there's
in 5.5 hours once.
I wouldn't admit that somewhere on the internet where the New Zealand police can find out. So yeah, we're talking about doing a little hobby trip down to, since we won't be going to Panzer Street this year, we're thinking we might do a trip down to our not so local friendly gaming store. So,
yeah, well, I mean, every time we go there, we always say, damn it, we were going to do a stock take of what paints we needed.
Oh yeah, he's got a fantastic supply of paints, doesn't he?
Yeah, but...
Yeah, that's Game Centre in Hamilton we're talking about for any New Zealanders watching.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Good selection of all the Vallejo ranges and all sorts of paint, really.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, every year we go down there, we're always disappointed that we forget to make a list of what paints we don't have in our collection.
Yep. All right. So we're gonna wrap up now, I think. Despite the technical difficulties, we've been running for close to an hour and a quarter. Thanks for coming along.
And we still have a day's worth of work to do yet.
Yeah. Getting back into the office, it's possibly busier than I expected. I'll see you all, pointy finger, next week, about the same time with Peter. Come along, prepare your questions, think about what stuff you want to ask him, because not often you get to ask the boss of a company, what's going on, why are we doing the things we're doing. He hopefully will be able to give you lots of good answers. Tune back in hopefully in 2 weeks, where we'll sit down again, the 4 of us, and do this. Be interesting to know if you guys have any thoughts on the 2 topics Casey's raised about how your painting has evolved and how your army choices have evolved. And otherwise...
and how the 2 are linked.
How the 2 are linked, there we go. So, yeah, I'll see you all I'll see you in a week, and, stay safe.
We'll see you in a couple.
See you guys, thanks for watching.
See ya, thanks.
Bye.